Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Move podcast. Talking about the Tour of Spain, La Vuelta, week 2 recap. I'm joined as almost always by Johan Brunel, JB Hager, and George Sound Quality Hincapie. Today's show brought to you by LMNT. Talk about it every week. This is our go-to hydration source. Had a bit of a rough night, so I've been pounding the LMNT today just to try to get back on track. By the way, happy Labor Day, everybody. Johan, of course, you guys don't have Labor Day over in Europe or really anywhere else outside the United States, but it's a big holiday here, so happy Labor Day to everybody. But back to LMNT, we talk about it all the time. It is our hydration source. 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium, no sugar, no gluten, no artificial ingredients, no BS. It is the real deal. Special offer for our listeners. You get a free sample pack if you head on over to drinklmnt.com/themove. That sample pack includes every flavor. So you got citrus, raspberry, orange, and unflavored. You can kind of dial in the ones you like the best. If you don't like it, give it to a friend. Don't even need to send it back. Special offer. Head on over to drinklmnt.com/themove. Today also brought to you by HVMN. A lot of these partners with letters, 4 letters. But HVMN is, of course, the maker of Ketone IQ. We a lot of talk about the use of ketones in the peloton. Very, very prevalent. They launched the world's first drinkable ketone in 2017. This is their latest innovation. Improved effectiveness, better taste, and lower cost. George, I don't know if you got them, but they just sent me the new single shot, so the single serving. So instead of the big bottle, they now make a single shot that you can throw in your jersey pocket, take it out on rides. Did you get any?
Oh yeah, I got some. We had a little bit there at the studio when we were in Aspen as well. It's great.
I just got a new package, new arrival. So special offer for our listeners. It's 20% off. Head on over to hvmn.com. Use the promo code THEMOVE20. All right, let's talk about the Vuelta. It's been, as far as I'm concerned, and I've watched most of the stages. I guess it's not totally unexpected in a young rider like Remco Evenepoel to start to show some weakness. But he was so dominant and starting with the time trial, which we of course had on the day after the last rest day, but we're starting to see some chinks in the armor, and he lost a teammate in Julian Alaphilippe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, whatever we see from Remco now, it's always unknown territory for him. And, he was extremely dominant in the first mountaintop finishes and in the time trial, and so I think for the sake of the race, it's actually not bad that we've seen these little cracks. I do think, however, that I'm Belgian. I know his father, so probably not neutral, but he did have a crash. I think the day or 2 days after Alaphilippe. Initially, it didn't seem like it was a big deal, but you know how it is with crashes. In the Grand Tour, the day after you're kind of okay, and then 2 days after you're all of a sudden not. 2 days after the crash was the day that he cracked a little bit on La Pandera. But I honestly think that he defended himself really well. He had bad moments, but he didn't completely break down. So at the moment, I think after last weekend, in my opinion, was the hardest weekend, the hardest combination of the whole Vuelta, especially the La Pandera stage and then the stage of Sierra Nevada. Super long climb, 2,500 meters altitude, 4,000 meters of vertical in the whole stage. That's a lot for the Vuelta. That's not usual. And I think he did a really great job yesterday. He pulled, I checked on the last climb, he pulled 11 kilometers all by himself with Roglic on the wheel. Enric Mas went away. So, in theory, that's not his closest rival. And Roglic was probably not having a great day yesterday. But still, he attacked in the final. And for Roglic to only take 15 seconds after having drafted on Sierra Nevada, which is a climb, the last part of Sierra Nevada is not steep. It's hard because it's long and it's at altitude, but drafting makes a big difference there. And so I think personally that he made a big step. He made a big step towards winning the Vuelta.
One thing, Johan, you actually pointed out in La Movida, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Yes, he had a crash, so perhaps he paid for this crash a little bit on that super steep finish where Roglic took 48 seconds at him. But I don't know if I'm missing it on TV, but he never asked for any help at all. Like 11 kilometers on Sierra Nevada, the days before, even when he was dominant, of course, he rode away from everybody, dropped everybody, never needed to ask for help. But then the days when he didn't drop anybody, he still would pull the last 2 or 3 kilometers and not even ask for help, which I don't know. I don't remember ever seeing Lance particularly do that. It's perhaps showing too much of your cards. If you're not going to drop them, if you're not going to attack them right away from them, it's a 3-week race. We all know those little crashes, the little things can always add up a lot more in the 3rd week. So I'd be telling them to hey, even if you're feeling good, let's ask for a little bit of help, a little bit of love from the guys that may be trying to move up from 7th to 8th, from 8th to 7th, or guys that have different priorities in the race that could potentially help them out.
Yeah. And especially yesterday, once Enric Mas was gone, he could have tried, and he should have tried to get help from O'Connor, who was improving his GC, and especially from Roglic. Now, in the case of Roglic, I personally think, number one, he was not on a great day, but I think Roglic is at a point in his career where he really doesn't need to be second in the Vuelta. It's either winning or nothing. And so I think Roglic played it very well. He played with the inexperience of Remco. And said, okay, you know what? I'm sitting here and just keep going. I also think, however, that these young cyclists now, and especially a guy like Remco, he is extremely numbers driven. So he knows exactly his pace. He says, okay, he goes a little bit under the pace that he knows he can maintain, and we've seen it. He could keep the same pace for the whole climb. And I think that's changed, obviously. As in the past, it was more we know our limits, but we still have this we can ask for help, or we can try to get some allies. I've never seen him ask for any help in this Vuelta in any stage.
And he did say at the post-race interview that he's never finished a stage so high. So even if he does know his numbers, you can't really know how your body's going to react, especially if you're pulling for 11 kilometers. Of course, you're defending. Yes, you need to defend. You need to keep Mas at a controllable distance, but you got good guys behind you that I'm sure if you would have asked, they might have given you a little bit of help along the way.
Yeah, I think especially O'Connor. O'Connor, he could have gotten help from O'Connor. I think Roglic was playing poker, all or nothing. But listen, it's still 1 week to go, and it's far from over. I think after the La Pandera stage on Saturday, they were smelling blood. But yesterday, in my opinion, he answered that really, really well. Only losing 15 seconds. And did. I would love to see the numbers, the output of Remco pulling 11 kilometers and then Roglic sitting on the wheel. That difference, I would love to see that. So I think he did well.
What were you going to say, JB?
Yeah. No, I was going to say one of the things we should revisit when we all got together a week ago, I think all of you felt like Roglic could come into form during this Vuelta. And it seems to be that's what's going on. Just keep in mind, he had the big Tour de France crash. Didn't he have COVID again as well? He's had some challenges. He's had some challenges since his tour crashes. It appears as if he's coming into form. Are we going to see that continue?
Right. That's what we said last week. If it in fact is true that he didn't get back on his bike and start training again after the tour crash until just 2 weeks before the Vuelta, you would think that. In effect, he's still training and still improving. That certainly could be the case.
Also, there's something I wanted to point out to you guys too. You mentioned inexperience of Remco. One of the things that impressed me is he doesn't panic. He doesn't blow himself up. He knows he had 2.5 minutes, and he's just riding his own pace and managing. He's doing a lot of time management, which that seems mature. Yes.
Definitely. And he has, he's on one of the best teams of one of the top 3 teams in the world that has some of the best directors in the world. So he's probably getting a lot of advice and counsel and coaching over the radio that, certainly I don't know who's driving the team car at the Vuelta, but they've got some great directors there that have a ton of experience.
Yeah, they do. But, I do see, however, that Quick Step, they've been around for a long time, but I do think they miss experiencing Grand Tours. It's not the same. Like for example, they're great at they're great at riding in the front. Normally, what they're used to when they chase, when they pull in the front, their objective has always been, once they go to the front, is to chase a breakaway down and to try to win the race. In Grand Tours, this is completely different. And so I did see a few times that they were riding actually a little bit too fast, even if it was only with one rider. There's one rider on that team, the French guy, Remco Evenepoel. He's worth 4 riders of any other team, only by himself. But I do think that sometimes he has been a little bit too aggressive, and not like there were 2 stages where they could have let the breakaway go a lot further down, and then they would have gotten help from other teams, which they did.
Be glad George isn't on that team. God, imagine how emotional and upset he would be. Going too fast. Nobody's gonna like us. That story never gets old, man. I fucking love it. It never gets old.
It is a story that's going to stick around forever. It's going to stick around forever.
I can't believe we're this far into this show, and on the heels of watching Remco Evenepoel's performance, no one this far into the show hasn't mentioned the showdown we're going to see at the Tour de France next year with all these young guys. Throw him into the mix.
I mean, you don't want to put that in our show notes. I mean, look at we have seen this trend or wave or phenomenon of these young riders. You got Remco, who's 22 years old, yesterday's stage winner, Arnsman, 22, Juan Ayuso, who's only 19, soon to be 20, in 4th, Carlos Rodriguez, 21 years old. I mean, all of these guys, I mean, I mean, we say all the time, I mean, if you're a cycling fan, the next decade is going to be epic.
But especially what we also see, and what I hear from people I talk to within pro cycling, Remco is a different case because he came later to cycling. He was already 16, almost 17 when he started cycling. He was a football player, a soccer player, as we call it over here. But these other guys, when they're 19, 20 years old, and they get to the pros. So they've raced already for 6 or 7 years since they're 12 years, and everybody says the same thing. It is unbelievable how experienced they are already.
Yeah.
They know everything. Nowadays we have the under 23 category. As soon as they're junior, they get into teams that are super well organized. The junior teams of nowadays are probably better organized than the U.S. Postal team of 1999.
Well, that's not saying very much, but you should have seen it in 1998. I mean, I know we talked about it this summer, but that was some bad news bears right there. It was terrible. But and I do want to talk about Remco's time trial, because that was, what did you tell us, Johan? The 55K. Did I read that right?
Yeah, 55.67 kilometers.
That is insanity. And for those at home trying to do the math, that's like 34 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is insane. And he's not he's not a Filippo Ganna, like a big powerhouse. He's a little guy, obviously, which makes him incredibly aero. But man, that's lightning fast.
Did he have a 58? Chain ring,
60. He ran a 60 front chain ring, big chain ring.
60, yeah.
And people make a lot about that. And the purpose of running a 60 is he's not riding a 60-11, right? Nobody can turn that gear. We always rode in the time trials, if you remember, George, we always rode bigger chain rings in the front because you just get better gearing options in the back. And so if you run a 60 on the front for the big one, then you can typically be 60-15, 60-16. So the chain line is straight. Whereas if you're running a 53 or 54.11, that chain is just off and the chain isn't straight. That's inefficient. With a 60, you can run a totally straight chain, and you're never going to be, unless it's a wicked tailwind or downhill, you're never going to be 60.11. But the whole point of that is to have the straighter chain. You like that, didn't you, JB? I see you nodding over there. You're like,
I've never heard anyone explain it that way. Totally.
Yeah,
that's the reason. Yeah.
That's exactly the reason.
So what was your biggest chain ring? 56?
I think, what did we go? 57, 56, 57?
No, 56 max. Normally, Lance, you were always riding either 54 or 55, depending on the course.
Yeah.
And 56, I would say, same reason. You probably rode 56 in the prologue of the 2005 tour, all flat into that Noirmoutier, whatever it was. But normally you were riding 55. Yeah.
Johan, I mean, that time trial performance was really unbelievable. I mean, I'd put that time trial performance 2 weeks into the Tour de France next year. If he can do the same thing, he's probably winning that time trial 2 weeks in.
The thing is, George, if you see the average speeds nowadays, it's crazy. I mean, 20 years ago, if you rode more than 50 kilometers average, you were probably top 3. If you rode 51, you were winning. If you ride 52 now, you are 52 per hour average, you're top 30. It's, so, but yeah, I mean, listen, he was obviously, he rode against Roglic, who was not 100%. That's true. But, to put 48 seconds in 30 kilometer flat time trial into the Olympic champion, that was quite the performance.
Yep.
What are you guys? What are your thoughts on Carapaz and his stage winning efforts and the potential team change? Is that confirmed and all that?
Yeah, it's confirmed.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on what you saw out there? He seemed pretty happy with his performance.
Yeah, I think he's riding a gutsy race. I mean, you know what it's like, or when you're leaving the team, it's kind of easy to phone it in and just maybe the team. They don't necessarily force you to go, but they basically make you go. You could just, you could drop out. You could come up with some excuse, say you're sick, your knee hurts, whatever. I think it's gutsy. I got to give it to him. And on the team thing, TBD, I think there's probably a clause in there that he's not going to ride for a second division team. So we'll see if they survive relegation.
Throwing the bombs out. Well, it's clear that
no, I'm not throwing out any bomb. I mean,
reality.
That was actually a wet kiss compared to how I usually talk about EF.
They picked up a couple points this weekend in Maryland, so I don't know if that's going to help them.
Hello, Maryland. Come on, Grand Prix Maryland. I mean, it's kind of.
As an American, you gotta love it.
It's Labor Day. Hey, Johan, quit bagging on the Americans.
I'm not bagging on the Americans. It's kind of sad if you have to get your points in a completely new race. I mean, and they're not the only ones. Israel was there, and Bike Exchange was there. All for the same reason. Yeah, I mean that battle is ongoing. It is unbelievable. Like Movistar, we all know, for example, that they are in danger. I mean, probably if Mas is on the podium, they're going to be fine. But it's to a point where, for example, the top riders of Lotto, who are in the relegation zone, the top riders of Movistar, at least those two, but others also, they refuse to send any riders to the World Championships. Because if you go to the Worlds, it's in Australia. You need to go on beforehand, and when you come back, so basically they lose them for 3 weeks, and they need those 3 weeks, for the guys to score points. So the top riders of Lotto and Valverde, who was, who's finishing his career, who wants to do the last time the World Championships, he's not allowed to go.
Wow, that's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really is.
Thanks for 20 years of service.
Yeah,
Alejandro. But
they need him.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's
that Australia. I mean, we're not here to talk about the Worlds, and we of course will cover that here on the show. But that jet lag is a real ass kicker. I mean, you do lose. I don't know. I guess I don't necessarily know what it's like coming from or going from Europe to Australia, but certainly from here. Oof, geez.
Yeah, I think you can count a minimum of 3 weeks that you cannot dispose of your riders. And it's still a question mark on how they're going to come back, right? I mean, some of them are going to be done for the rest of the season.
Wow. Before we talk about some of the other good performances from week 2 from this year's Tour of Spain, today's show also brought to you by Athletic Greens, otherwise known as AG1. Check it out. I got my travel pack right here. I started taking this stuff, about a year ago. It's religion to me now. I take it every day. Many folks take actually 2 packs a day. If you listen to the smart ones, Dr. Huberman, Dr. Attia, they hammer 2 a day. This company is cool. It was founded. The founder actually started playing around with this mixture because he was having a ton of gut and health issues. So they came up with a formula, which, by the way, I think they've reinvented or formulated about 50 times. 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. Start your day off just right, all for less than $3 a day. Not too bad. Let's make it easy. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs like this with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/themove. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/themove. Last one of the day. Today's show also brought to you by Helix Sleep. God, I love my Helix mattress. And don't take it from me. GQ Magazine and Wired named it the best mattress of the year, or the best mattress out there. But they've taken it next level, right? So it's just not a mattress. It is a custom mattress. So all you do is you go on the website, you take a 2-minute sleep quiz. As we all know, everybody's sleep is unique, and they know that as well. Several different mattresses to choose from. They have soft, they have medium, they have firm, and they also great for cooling you down if you sleep hot. A lot of us do. I took the quiz, been loving my mattress for just over a year now. Head on over to helixsleep.com/themove. Take the 2-minute sleep quiz. I'll give you a custom mattress. That's helixsleep.com/themove. And right now, up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Again, helixsleep.com/themove. What else happened in week 2, Johan? This Jay Vine. Can we talk about this? I want to talk about that. I mean, this I love this. I haven't really followed this guy, but winning the Zwift Academy. So Alpecin said that whoever wins the Zwift Academy will get a pro contract. I mean, that's already saying something.
Yeah.
But then to be a force in a Grand Tour after winning a Zwift Academy competition, shit.
Is that forgive my ignorance on Zwift Academy. Was that a one-off event or a series of points over time?
Great question.
No, they're starting it again now. It's like an off-season sort of thing, and that Zwift Academy is about to start. I think in the next few weeks, and I believe the winner gets another pro contract, men and women.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that, but yeah, I mean, Jay Vine, obviously, he is, he won 2 stages. He's most likely going to win the Mountains jersey in the Tour, and it's obviously in the Vuelta. Sorry, it's obviously a competition which it's not as wanted as the one in the Tour de France. They have a better looking jersey. They have blue polka dots instead of red polka dots. But yeah, I mean, who knows? He can still go for another stage. He's been in a lot of breakaways. He does not have the power anymore of those 2 times he won, because he was really impressive there. Also still, a very unexperienced rider, but definitely a guy who we're going to hear
in the future. Right.
Yeah.
He's got a commanding lead. I love that. I love these polka dot jersey competitions and conversations. He's got 59 points. Carapaz has 30. So yeah, looks like he's gonna.
I think no doubt we'll be seeing both of those guys going in the breakaways and some of these mountain stages to come. Although they're not as hard as they were last week, but we'll probably see them going for more stages as well.
For sure. It's in the last week is always the same, George. The guys who actually still have something left to be able to go in breakaways, it's 15 riders, right? The other guys are dead in the last week, so we will see a lot of the same riders now showing up again.
Well, that's good pickings for outcomes. I mean, that's where I think that's where you can use and of course, we're talking about outcomes, our sports betting show. that Johan and Spencer Martin do behind the paywall. Got to be a member to listen to that. But Johan, do some digging, get some intel there on and we now the teams that are truly desperate as the season starts to wind down. All that stuff factors in. Speaking of jersey competitions, though, Mats Pedersen finally wins a stage, 3 times second, firmly in the green jersey. Check this one out: 284 points. Second place, 111. I think he's got it wrapped up.
Yeah, that's sure, and that's, of course, that's a security for him. And tomorrow we may see again Mats Pedersen. For that you need to listen to outcomes.
I mean, not only that, but think about it, he started the Tour. He was second place or third place in the first stage of the Tour de France. I mean, think about the form this guy is on in the last 2 months, and you don't see that very often where somebody could ride so well in the Tour de France, win a stage midway through the Tour de France, and now win another stage of the Vuelta, having the green jersey. Incredible season he's having so far.
Yep. Yeah, and the stage he won was impressive. I mean, okay, it's not the same field of sprinters, right? But there was just no way he would not win that stage. He basically went into a breakaway in the last 300 meters and broke away from the peloton. He's on incredible form, and from what I hear from some of the teammates, he's an incredible guy. They love to ride for him. Brings the motivation to the team, and I mean, of course, it's good they don't have a rider up for GC, but you can see that team is really reeled around him and is doing a great job.
Yeah,
let's talk about
Go ahead, G.
Johan. What about Enric Mas? What do you know about him? I mean, the performance he had yesterday on Sierra Nevada, not losing any time to the favorites in the last 7-8 kilometers.
From 7 kilometers to go to the finish, he actually gained 2 seconds on the fastest guys, on Miguel Angel Lopez and Enric Mas. Wow. I mean, being in the breakaway all day, and then go on your own and be able to go at that speed. That's listen, Ineos has seen it. He has signed for Ineos. Huh. For the next 2 or 3 years. So it's a guy. I mean, he's been coming. I think he was second or third 3 years ago in Tour de l'Avenir, just before he turned professional. He was up there, and he's one of the guys, and he's a really tall guy. He's 192, so I think he's about your height, George. You're not 192.
No, I think I'm 190, around 190.
You're 189, so he's taller than you. And he's not like his legs and his arms are not sticks. He's kind of a well-built guy. So he must be 75 kilos at least, in my opinion. I mean, to be able to do that performance yesterday was really amazing.
So what are your thoughts on this? You said Ineos signed him now. You think Quick-Step is going to start changing their tactics a bit? Because obviously they're one of the best one-day World Cup racing teams in the world. And their focus is sprints, and the World Cups. The classics. Well, now they got Remco in their hand for the next 5 years. I mean, are we going to start seeing different signings going on?
That's a real good question. They haven't done the signings for next year. Definitely not the signings that they do have. I'm quite pleased with the team. Like they have they have Louis Vervaeke, who is doing an amazing job. Who yesterday was key. And he was in the breakaway, then dropped back and paced Remco for a number of kilometers. And they have this young Van Wilder, who's also a really, really good climber. They had Alaphilippe in this race. I mean, they do have some good young riders, but I think there's still a lot of work to be done there. I think the mentality of Remco needs to change. I think he's too eager. He's too he wants to win stages. It makes me think of somebody. But
well, that's funny. That's funny. You said it last week that he was super motivated to win a stage. When we're sitting here going, wait a minute. I mean, who really cares, right? You don't need to win battles. You got to win the war.
Yeah.
But he actually, after winning the time trial, he came out and said it. He confirmed it. He said, I really just wanted to win a stage.
Yeah.
And that's what we speculated, that if he were able to win the time trial, that would check that box for him. But yeah, I mean, the guy's a killer.
Well, now
we got on, I called him, what did I call him? Tough son bitch.
Yeah.
We got on Belgian TV. That was that we got some Belgian TV love. All you got to do is call somebody a tough son of a bitch, and then I put you on TV.
Yeah.
Well, you probably had them perplexed translating some bitch the way we say it here.
SUMBITCH.
What
for all you Belgians out there. How do you? Well, never mind. We won't get into translating that.
No.
Hey, something else I thought was worth pointing out. You guys have been going on and on in the last year or two about how there's more GC overall teams as a whole in the peloton that are in contention. One of the things I thought was impressive is stage 11 sprint. That bike exchange lead out was very quick step like. I mean, it was on point, and it's like you're just seeing these teams elevate different skill sets that you hadn't seen before, and that one looked perfect.
Yeah, they were super motivated. It was also the same day that they lost Simon Yates. Simon Yates had to pull out. He was sitting in fifth, and so they were quick to change, the focus and have the whole team around Caden Groves. Young sprinter still, and I think he has a huge potential. But yeah, Bike Exchange, they did a really good job there, and it's one of the teams also that is in need for points. So that was welcome victory for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking of points, I'm looking at the team standings. So Movistar looks like they've got a bit of a cushion now. Now they're up to 14th in the standings. Jump 3 spots, right? I mean,
yeah.
Right? I mean, you got Bike Exchange 18th, EF 19th. Astana, 21st. They're going down.
No, that's not that's not the standings that are going off. That you're probably looking at the standings of this year, of 2022.
I don't know. I just looking at pro cycling stats.
There's pro cycling stats. There's a little thing there. The standings are for the last 3 years.
Ah.
So
okay.
So it's different. It's different.
So when they're looking at relegation, is it over a 3-year period?
Yes. It's over a 3-year period. Yeah.
Where do we find? Well, that's a good. Okay, fair enough. Where do we find those standings? I'd like to see those.
They're there on Pro Cycling Stats somewhere. Just below what you just checked.
Huh. Cool.
Yeah. But also the two teams that are for the moment going down is Lotto Soudal and Israel. Lotto Soudal is not in a bad position. They could eventually still get it because they're doing a really good end of season. But in any case, even if they go down to the second division, they win this year's competition within the second division, and so they are entitled to all the World Tour races, all the classics, all the Grand Tours. Whereas Israel is in a really bad position because if they go down, they're going to be only in third position, not in second position, because there's one team, Total Energies. They do better this year than Israel, and so they have no invitations at all automatically. So that's an expensive team to not have any invitations.
That's probably a relief for Chris Froome. I mean, he's.
But think about this, guys. I mean, they won 2 stages in the Tour de France, the world's biggest bike race, 2 stage wins, and really at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything in terms of their holding their Pro Tour status. Kind of crazy.
Hey, before we wrap up, so Johan, I guess I'll put it to you. Do you think Remco holds on here? And what are the days that are, which of the stages are the highest risk for him, or the days that he's going to have to be the most alert?
Yeah, no, I think it's stage 20. Stage 20 is the day, which is, we'll keep the suspense until the very end. But I kind of think that he looks good. I think the consequences of, or the pain of the crash will be more or less gone. I think that's a big factor. And from what I see, from what I heard, he got really a lot of confidence out of yesterday's performance. I think yesterday was a huge test for him. He cannot be sure. And I think he needs to, stay very conservative, have respect for his rivals, which, he talks highly of, but, and especially, not do anything to show off or, go for a stage win, just really, really focus on your closest rival, which is Roglic. Now, the danger here is that he focuses so much on Roglic that the third dog in the fight, Enric Mas, could get away with the bone. So because Enric Mas, I have to say, yesterday he looked really good. And they are. I mean,
what
it's kind of,
I'm looking at stage 20. This is a category 1, category 2, category 2, category 1, category 1, finish on top. I mean, that's a, he better have his pencil sharpened.
Yeah, no, it's a really, really hard stage.
Any other uphill finishes in the last week?
Yeah. There's 3 mountain stages, but I think those climbs are kind of not a problem for Remco. And also, the other teams, they have to be aggressive.
Right.
I think, for example, Roglic has been looking a lot better, but also with that, his team has been looking better. Jumbo-Visma has also grown into this Vuelta, and they had a really good team yesterday. So I think personally on stage 20, it's going to be a team game. And there you really need a strong team. So early in the stage, a Cat 1 climb, that's like, it has Movistar, whatever it was back in the days, Banesto, Caisse d'Epargne, all written over it. We remember how annoying they could be, right? And it's still the same. It's the same.
We called them pestosos.
Los pestosos. Yeah.
Pestosos. The stinkers. That's what I call them. I'm going to start calling my kids, because I call my kids stinkers. So I'm going to start calling them pestosos. So
pestoso. You're not gonna call them that other French word. No, we're gonna not talk.
No, that's on this trip somehow my younger kids managed to learn a couple like cuss words in French, and when we were in France, and they would just walk around and, hey, petit salope. I'm like, whoa, you cannot say that,
just
out
blurting
loud.
it out.
We have to edit that out. That's not going to go over well.
Manger mon merde.
Hey, while you're talking about cussing, it's like Remco can't get through an interview without throwing something in there.
Oh,
very,
really?
very colorful language. Yes. Oh, yeah.
When was that? I didn't
One of his post. They were apologizing a couple times for his post interviews.
Oh, okay.
But it's endearing. It's endearing.
He needs to come on the move. You can say whatever he wants on here.
He's using it appropriately.
No apologizing.
His English cursing is on point.
We'll get him on the move at some point before the Tour de France next year.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
That would be.
Hey, I do have a couple comment and a question.
Well, let's ask George. I want to ask George too, because so George, you think he holds on?
Man, I don't know. I just feel like
I'm with you.
Experience. Roglic is looking better and better. I really feel like Jumbo kind of perhaps lost a bit of an opportunity. Yes, they sent their guys back in the breakaway a bit too early. It's a 20-kilometer finishing climb. They could have used them with 10K to go.
That was a big mistake in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Roglic was isolated, started to pull at the bottom of the climb with 20K to go. I mean, what are you going to do there? So I don't know. I feel like they need to take a hard look at what they did yesterday and learn from that. Know that they got the strength to get guys in the breakaway, get them up the road. So I think we're going to see a really exciting last week. I don't know. I got my money on Roglic.
Ooh. I don't disagree.
Yeah, I won't disagree, but I still, I'm going to hope that Remco wins.
Well,
yeah.
This is the Belgian thing again.
Yeah, exactly.
At play here.
Yeah, he knows his dad. What are people talking about on our email list there, JB?
Here's a couple things for you. G'day from Australia. I love how they write out g'day, like the way we write out y'all. It says, I've been a longtime follower of cycling. Firstly, thank you. The move has made following the sport a lot more fun and engaging. We hear a lot about the state of U.S. cycling on the show, but can I get some support for how well Australia is doing as a cycling nation?
Absolutely.
Across the Grand Tours this year, Australia started 9 in the Giro, 10 in the Tour, 16 in the Vuelta,
wow,
and 8 in the Tour de France Femme.
Yep.
and says, P.S. Can't wait to hear your coverage of the World Championships this year and to finally see some racing that isn't held in a ridiculous time zone. That's from Luke.
I agree. I'm with you, Luke. I think a race like the World Championships should be truly global. I mean, it shouldn't just bounce between France and Italy and Belgium and Holland and, Western Europe. I think it should be, it should be all over the world. And he's right. Shout out to the Aussies. They're for a country that has a large landmass, there's not a huge population there. So those numbers that you just clicked off, JB, pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. If you compare it to to our country, for example, our numbers are a lot smaller and we've got a lot more people.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, won the Giro d'Italia. So got one Grand Tour in the belt.
Yep.
All right. One more here real quick, guys. Great show. Last year I was at Worlds and I remember the big media speculation of Remco versus Wout van Aert. Right. So 2 questions. How do you guys see this playing out in the next World Championships with Remco and Wout being so dominant? And second part of the question, what is the dynamic like in national events like Olympics or Worlds? It must be weird. First, Alaphilippe and Remco work together and Quick Step, then they try to outfox each other for France or Belgium. Are there any deals or friendships in races like this? Keep up the great talks. That's from Daniel in South Africa. So first talk about
as the only ex-world champion, I think you should answer this.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, you're paid by a team. And so it's in an ideal scenario, it's never a conflict, but if there is a conflict, you never forget who's paying your monthly bill. Right. And so, and we saw, we saw it last year during the Olympics. We saw Brandon McNulty clearly working for Tadej Pogačar in the Olympics because they're on the same team. Right. I don't, but again, it's not ideal, but it definitely happens. And with regards to Wout and Remco, look, I mean, Johan, you know better than any of us, but I don't think they're swapping any Christmas cards or going on any vacations together anytime soon.
Well, I mean, that's the big problem for this year's World Championships. I think, last year there was this controversy. Remco did not follow the team plan. He absolutely wanted to show that he was a team player after the criticism of Eddie Merckx. But he didn't follow the team plan. And, they have spoken. I don't know if they've really spoken in depth. So I'm curious to see what it's going to be. That's why, I mean, it would be amazing. It would be great if Remco can win the Vuelta. So he has his big prize, and he's definitely going to be co-leader in Australia. But I personally think that the World Championships is a race a lot more suited to Wout van Aert than to Remco. Remco has to finish by himself. Wout van Aert can win in any situation. So
that's for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, Johan. If he wins the Vuelta, then he goes to the World as a bonus. Yeah, he can potentially win that, but there's not huge pressure. Last year, the race was in Belgium. The pressure was all on the Belgian team. There was a lot of politics, a lot of drama behind it. I'd say this year Australia is going to be a completely different scenario, especially if he wins the Vuelta. But going back to the help on the World Championships or Olympics, I'd say you see it a lot more in teams that really have no chance of winning. Perhaps like if there's a rider that's racing for a Venezuelan team, and one of their teammates is racing for the French team, his team may not have a chance of winning. You might see that potentially happen where he might help his team, his domestic or his real team out a little bit in a race like the World Championship or the Olympics. But the top guys that are racing for the top countries, you don't see that so often where they're going to help each other out, even if they're on the same team.
Yeah.
And I think it's at least I've never heard of it or certainly never experienced any pressure from your trade team, right? So you got the national team and the trade team. I don't recall a moment or even hearing of any pressure from your trade team to say, you are riding for your trade teammate. So it's just kind of a unique one-day special scenario. Cool.
Watch Eritrea take it all.
Venezuela. George busted out Venezuela.
Right.
Leonardo Sierra is going to come back. Greatest bike clip on YouTube. That fight that Leonardo Sierra and that other little goofball got into. Where they're just
Ramoncho Gonzalez.
Oh God! If you guys are listening, anybody listening, just I don't even know how you just look up, bike race fight or something. It's got to be the first thing that pops up. Yeah. These some bitches are throwing haymakers. They're wearing bike cleats in the middle of the race. I mean, it's all time. You got to look it up.
Yeah.
So right, if you do get in a fight, cleats on or cleats off?
Well,
I don't think you got time to take them off.
I was going to say, hang on, don't hit me yet. I got to take my bike cleats off. All right, we'll be back next week to wrap it up. And thanks for tuning in. See y'all soon.